SpongeBob SquarePants Mysteries Stage Fright. Chapter 16. Some people might say it's wrong to take things that don't belong to you. And those people would be right. But I didn't plan to take the letter and keep it forever. I just wanted to borrow it long enough to read it. Now some people might say the contents of that private letter were none of my business, but they'd be wrong. I'm a detective. If I think a letter holds clues that might help solve the case I'm working on, then I make that letter my business. That's just the way the private eye game is played, and I play it to win. SpongeBob hurried up the aisle and out of the auditorium with Sandy following close behind. The lobby was empty. SpongeBob took out the letter and started to read with Sandy reading over his shoulder. Listen up, Mr. Big Shot Director, the letter opened. I still can't believe you didn't pick my outdoor amphitheater for your show. Nobody wants to go downtown and see a show. Downtown's noisy. It's crowded, confusing. It stinks with the exhaust from newfangled boatmobiles. My outdoor amphitheater's out here on my farm where there's plenty of wide open spaces, and it smells really nice. Mostly, unless there's a stiff breeze blowing from the barn, so you were crazy to pick that other theater. I tried to tell you that, but you just wouldn't listen. Well, it's not too late. I'll still let you put on your glitzy show in my outdoor amphitheater by now. You've had that time to figure out how crummy that old downtown theater is. So you just come out and apologize real nice and you can use my outdoor amphitheater. Of course the price has gone up. That's only natural, but if you decide to keep your overblown musical at the downtown theater, well, I feel sorry for you. I really do. Signed Old Man Jenkins, Outdoor Amphitheater Owner Extraordinaire. P.S. I made it, Buster. There was the crude drawing of an old man with a beard shaking his fist. SpongeBob looked up from the letter at Sandy with a glint in his eye. Well, this is extremely interesting. So Old Man Jenkins wants Martin Dorado to pull his musical out of the Jiffy Lane Theater and mount it at his outdoor amphitheater. I call that motive. So do I, Sandy agreed. And when he says he feels sorry for Dorado if he doesn't move the production, I call that an implied threat. Right, SpongeBob said. Like, I feel sorry for you because something bad is going to happen to you and your show. Exactly, Sandy said. But I have a question. Why did Emma hide this letter from us? Could she be in on the plot to sabotage the show with Old Man Jenkins? I don't know, SpongeBob said, tucking the letter in his pocket, planning to return it to the doctor's table later. But I'd like to find out. I suggest we pay Old Man Jenkins a little visit. Sadie smiled. I was just about ready to say the exact same thing, partner. They snuck out of the Jiffy Lane Theater, but as they left, they didn't notice that they were being followed. On the way to Old Man Jenkins' farm, SpongeBob and Sandy discussed the cranky senior citizen. Sure, he might be a touch grouchy, Sandy said, and a little eccentric, but I never figured Old Man Jenkins for a criminal. I agree, SpongeBob said. But one thing I've learned in this business, you never really know what someone might be capable of. Soon they'd reached the property line. Old Man Jenkins! SpongeBob shouted. Where are you? You've got visitors! Old Man Jenkins! Sandy called out. Come on out and say howdy! We just want to sit down and have a friendly little chin wag. They tried knocking on the front door of the house. They checked the barn, looked around the pens for the livestock and the fields for the crops. As they made their way through one of the fields, they heard rustling behind them. What was that? Sandy asked. I don't know, SpongeBob said. He looked down the row of plants but didn't see anyone. Old Man Jenkins? Is that you? We just want to talk. There was no answer. Well, Sandy said, we're investigators, so I say we investigate. Come on, SpongeBob. She headed back down the road, looking for the source of the rustling sound they heard, but suddenly, Roar! In front of them, a huge shadowy figure reared up in silhouette. They could make out whipping tentacles in the darkness, but they couldn't see the creature's face. Wah! SpongeBob and Sandy screamed. They turned and ran as fast as they could, with the beast chasing after them. Crashing through the plants in the field, they zigged and zagged, trying to lose the monster, but it just kept on coming, stomping and roaring. Roar! Eventually, SpongeBob spotted a sign that read, "Outdoor Amphitheater," with an arrow pointing the way. "This way!" he shouted to Sandy. "Maybe there'll be a place to hide in the amphitheater!" They sprinted down the path, following the sign's direction. It wasn't far. Ahead they saw a large covered stage with red curtains. In front of the stage there was plenty of room to set up chairs, though none were there at the moment. On the stage itself, they were surprised to see a group of young actors rehearsing. Some had hair flopping down over their eyes. Others had the sides of their heads shaved. A few wore wispy beards and mustaches. Many sported piercings and tattoos. SpongeBob and Sandy ran right up to them. "Hide!" SpongeBob shouted. "A monster's coming!" "Seriously?" A male fish dressed all in black asked skeptically. "Where?" a female fish asked. "I don't see any monster." SpongeBob and Sandy turned around and looked back the way they'd come. By this time of night, the area was dark, but the lights of the amphitheater lit up a circle around the structure. There was no monster. "But," Sandy said, "it was just there, chasing us. Huge, mean, ugly." "Maybe the lights scared it off," SpongeBob said. "Yeah, right," the young male fish scoffed. "Or maybe there was no monster. Maybe these two are just here to spy on us," the young female fish said, crossing her arms. "Steal our ideas. Where'd you come from anyway?" "We work at the Drippy Lane Theater," SpongeBob said. The actors all sneered and rolled their eyes. "You call that a theater?" the male fish asked. "They're putting on some kind of silly musical, aren't they?" "It's a musical," SpongeBob said, "but it's not silly." "They should close that place down," a brooding fish said. "It's a disgrace to theater." The female fish shook her head. "What do they do at Drippy Lane isn't theater. Theater is serious." She opened her arms wide, indicating the whole company of young actors, "like the play we're putting on." "What's it about?" SpongeBob asked. "How the sea is full of emptiness and nothingness," she answered. "Sounds fun," Sandy said sarcastically. SpongeBob was confused. "How can something be full of nothingness?" "You wouldn't understand," the guy dressed all in black scoffed. "Our play is meaningful, cutting edge. It's going to make everyone's heads explode." "Well, don't let us interrupt your rehearsal," Sandy said. "You already have," the male fish said, putting on his coat. "Come on, let's get out of here. It's late. But remember, everybody, as you're leaving, watch out for the monster." Laughing, they gathered up their backpacks and left. SpongeBob and Sandy watched them go. "They don't seem to like the Drippy Lane Theater very much," Sandy observed. "Do you think they could have had anything to do with the sabotage?" "Could be," SpongeBob said. "But what I'd like to know right now is where that monster went." Rustle. "What was that?" Sandy hissed. "Is the monster back?" They peered into the darkness. A figure burst into the light, but it wasn't the monster. It was a bearded old man carrying a pitchfork. "Trespassers!" It was Old Man Jenkins. True to his name, he was an elderly fish with striped green skin and a long gray beard. He wore blue shorts with suspenders. "You two trespassers best get off my property," he warned, "before I give you a good old-fashioned pitchforking." He jabbed the pitchfork at them threateningly. SpongeBob held up both hands to show he meant no harm. "Old Man Jenkins, it's me, SpongeBob, from the Krusty Krab SpongeBob, remember? The old fish peered at him, squinting. You, that sarcastic sourpuss that takes my order at the cash register? SpongeBob chuckled.
No, that's Squidward. I'm the Fright cook who makes your Krabby Patties just the way you like it. Like them. Extra soft with no onions or pickles because they give you gas.
The mere mention of Krabby Patties made Old Man Jenkins' mouth water. He licked his lips. Mmm. Oh, right. I remember you now. You're that feller in the kitchen. But that doesn't explain why you're out here skulking around my amphitheater. Old Man Jenkins continued, still pointing his pitchfork in their direction. Bothering the youngins putting on their show. We just wanted to ask you a couple of questions, Sandy said, smiling her friendly smile. Like what? Old Man Jenkins asked suspiciously. SpongeBob held up the letter.
We read this letter you sent to the director, Martin Toronto, about using your outdoor amphitheater for his show.
That ain't a question, Old Man Jenkins said, waving his pitchfork.
What did you mean when you said you would feel sorry for Dorado if he kept his show at the Dripping Lane Theater?
Looking surprised, Old Man Jenkins said, I meant just what I said. I feel sorry for him. He'd be missing out on the best darn theater in the country. Sandy looked puzzled. Y'all have countries down here at the bottom of the ocean? Old Man Jenkins shrugged. Just a figure of speech.
So you weren't threatening Martin Dorado?
SpongeBob asked. No, Old Man Jenkins said, lowering his pitchfork. I don't know why anybody want to go see a show in downtown Bikini Bottom. Terrible place. All them city folks speeding around in their boatmobiles, blasting their horns and fighting for parking places. He raised a fin indicating the open spaces around them. Not like out here where it's peaceful and there's lots and lots of room to spread out. Have a picnic. Enjoy a show. Under the stars. It was getting late and the stars began to twinkle in the night sky. SpongeBob had a thought.
So, you don't like going downtown?
No, Old Man Jenkins said forcefully. I do not. Hate it, in fact.
When was the last time you were down there?
Old Man Jenkins cocked his head thinking. Oh, it's been years. I'd say 20 years at least since I've been on that specific block. Yes, sir, I leave downtown for them city folk. They're welcome to it. SpongeBob and Sandy exchanged a meaningful look. If Old Man Jenkins hadn't been downtown in 20 years, he couldn't possibly have committed all the acts of sabotage at the theater. Now, if everyone in Bikini Bottom would like to come out to the pharmacy and that show, that'd be fine with me. He went on. I could use the money. He grinned and looked confidential. If Dorado did rent my outdoor amphitheater for his big show, I'd charge him plenty. I'd soak him good. He laughed a dry, raspy laugh that threatened to turn into a coughing fit. When he stopped laughing and looked serious, then he stopped laughing and looked serious. Say, how'd you get your hands on that letter anyway? You work for Dorado or the post office?
Let's just say we work for the truth, SpongeBob said.
Old Man Jenkins made a face. Doubt that pays? Well, if you see, Dorado put in a good word for my outdoor amphitheater. He looked up at the curtains and the arch running over the stage. Beautiful, ain't she? Built her myself. She sure is, Sadie said, nodding.
Have you ever seen any monsters out here?
SpongeBob asked. Monsters? Old Man Jenkins asked, wrinkling up his face. No, all I see out here are actors and audience members. Some of them get kind of rude sometimes, but I wouldn't call them monsters. The kid in charge of the rehearsal tonight can be a little bossy, but I put up with it because he's my grandnephew.
Well, thanks, Old Man Jenkins, SpongeBob said. We appreciate you answering our questions.
Okay, the old man said. Good night. It's past my bedtime. He headed off to his farmhouse to go to sleep. As they walked back into town, SpongeBob and Sandy discussed what they learned. Seems as though Old Man Jenkins couldn't have committed all those acts at the Jupiter Lane Theater since he hasn't been in the area in 20 years.
That's what he says anyway,
SpongeBob pointed out. We still don't know why Emma hid his letter from us and where that monster came from. Maybe Old Man Jenkins was working with a partner on the inside, like Emma. Instead of one criminal, we could be looking at for two. An evil duo. Anyway, we definitely need more answers. Sandy yawned. First, I need some sleep. Stay tuned for Chapter 17 coming up soon.